So, oh.
Okay, great. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Wahiga Kemuturi. We are doing a random vlog based on what we're studying, which is gender response and communication, actually reporting to be exact. Now, even as we do what we're doing, we remember that in the past week, media portrayals of women and men, particularly in politics, have been scrutinized. But also we've seen it also in relationships, which seems to be a very remarkable thing for Kenyans. But a gender-responsive training for Kenyan journalists emphasized that the need for balanced reporting, highlighting the difficulties both men and women face. And that's something I would actually like to put out there. Statistics also show that women underrepresented in, actually, let me take that again. Statistics show that women are underrepresented in leadership positions, which affects public perception and policy. But it also, the same statistics show that men are also underrepresented, especially when it comes to judicial services and etc. So, as we observe the 16 days of activism against GBV, which is gender-based violence, it is crucial for us to advocate for equity. There's equity, there's equality, there's also how we report, and then there's also how we communicate. So the question, which I'm throwing to everybody, even as you introduce yourself, why does this conversation matter to you? If it even matters. If it doesn't, it's also okay. I'm not here to kill you for that. All right, let's go. I'll start with my co-host, Annette.
Hi, my name is Annette Washira. I'm a woman and I'm a communication specialist. And of course, this topic is very dear to my heart. I think we all know, or I know a woman who's been through this. And even as a communication person, it's good for me to have the right narrative when communicating. So I am really looking forward to good conversations and to hear everyone's opinions and views on this really important topic.
Nice. So please pick the next person randomly.
To the left.
To the left. The Beyonce song? Or Okay. That's Anna.
So hi everyone, my name is Anna. I'm a marketing specialist. So for me, why is this important to me? This conversation is important to me because first of all, yes, I'm a woman. And the reason why it's important is because I know the impact that media has on the society. So I'd like to understand if our perception of women is solely on our original thought process or it's because of the way the media has portrayed women to be. Our behaviors towards women, is it dictated by what the media puts across or it's an original thought? So that's what I want to know.
Interesting. Pick the next person, please.
Jean-Pierre.
Hi everyone, my name is Jean-Pierre Afadari. I'm a reporter and I cover women's stories. So this topic is very important for me so that I can improve my coverage for accurate reporting and fair coverage of women's stories.
Thank you. Pick the next person.
Mwangi.
Yes. My name is James and I'm a community developer. This conversation is very, very important to me because there's this narrative which has been there all along that gender-based violence is about women. I would want to add my voice as a man, and that's why I really want to participate in this discussion.
Okay.
No, my name is Daniel, and I'm really here to want to learn a lot of things because I know as a journalist, I cover this topic broadly, and I know I have the power to shape everything, so that everything that the society says about it, it's me then to cover it and give it prominence or not. And being here at this place at this moment allows me to learn so many things in between.
Mm-hmm. Last but not least.
Hello, everyone. My name is Fiber Combo again. I'm a communications professional working for a nonprofit, and some of the work that we do is mainly on gender democracy, and gender justice. So today I'm joining this discussion because as a comms professional, I feel like it's important for us. We have the capacity, we have the capability to use our voices and our platforms to show the actual realities on the ground, on how gender is being, how it's seen, how it's reported, and what more we can do to make sure that the actual realities on the ground is what the general public gets to hear, to know, and to understand.
Interesting how gender is seen and heard and even felt within our communities and even our spaces. So let me start with Annette, starting with what have you seen within this week or these few days that has really made you ask a question or see unbiased something?
Yeah, thanks for that. So luckily we're in the 16 days of activism against GBV. So this is a really timely conversation. And as I can see in Daily Nation, there's an article that's titled From Corner Office to Courtroom, How Alice Kenya Left Lucrative Career to Pursue SGBV Justice. And as I read through this article, I could just see how the narration is talking about, there's a lot of numbers in terms of cases, I can see that according to the 2022 KDHS survey, that we actually have between the age of 15 to 49, we have at least 12% experiencing sexual violence before the age of 15, which is very worrying. Like, that's like teenage years. So you can imagine a child at that age experiencing such instances, such scenarios. And so for me, this story, I feel it was really well written. I would like us to maybe discuss maybe the title, because I know we've been talking about it over the week. So do we feel it was a good title, number one? Although I can see another, I don't know what you call it, from the reporter's view, where it talks about line of duty, defilement, sexual assault, incest, sodomy, and neglect make up the majority of her caseload. So happy to hear any more thoughts on this.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I could begin by giving perspective to whatever you can see. If you look at the paper, so this really is more of a summary to tell you what to expect in the paper, and it's more of to intrigue you to either read or not to read. So by just a one-liner, you should make up your mind whether you want to proceed with the whole story or skip to the next page.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting. Actually, you say that, because also there are two questions in my mind. Are you mansplaining, or are you actually saying that as a journalist because she's the reader? And how do you feel about first that?
I think it's very out there. Like, okay, we're talking about these subtopics.
So out there in a good or bad way?
I do want to read more, but then I'm also scared as a woman. Like, do you have like numbers? Do you have graphic details there?
Or would want to explain, especially in this first line.
Yeah.
You see, in a production, really, in coming up with the paper, out of how many pages? This is about 800 words. I have to come up with these 1, 2, 3, 4, close to 10 words here that will either invite you or not invite you from the point of production.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's interesting. Actually, just capturing that fast, because also it's important we're also trying to see it from your side of the story.
Okay.
And your side of the story is that I'm trying to get your attention, which surprisingly seems you got it. You achieved your KPI.
Yes.
But also she's like, I got it, but I feel like
triggering. It could be triggering.
So you see, like, sometimes there are different ways of triggering. You sometimes make somebody happy, make them sad.
Yeah.
But in between the emotions, you aim, rather hope that they will read your story to understand the context of why you chose this. Because you will find that either this line is not there or it's a summary of whatever is here.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just an excerpt of whatever is here to make it placed here.
Interesting. Let me take somebody else who has a different piece they got. Tafadhali.
I reviewed the Daily Nation on 27th November.
Okay, good.
I saw they published like two major stories on justice. I think those stories were timely, and I wanted to cover those stories on women. Yeah, those are the stories anyone can go and read in the Daily Nation 27th.
So interesting. So for you, it's like, for lack of a better word, rating ni 10 out of 10.
Yes,
okay.
They were timely, and also
But the really sad stories. The really sad stories. I happen to be at the heart of everything. Yeah.
Hey, sorry.
In the sense that I got to read the paper, like I get to read the paper as early as 12 or even before that. And I read the newsletter. So like I have to make you read whatever is in the paper. So this morning as I was going through these, I was conflicted between having this story and the one on page 2 and trying to balance emotion, because when you want to read, you either want to be motivated, you want to be inspired, but also you want to learn about this that is happening. So trying to balance the emotions really was a difficult thing for me this morning. Because I know there's this story of justice, delayed justice. Then there's this, that somebody's looking for justice on the other page. A tough one.
That's actually interesting. James Fiber? And
There's a story about football. Those guys will have football. Police FC chase first victory. But the issue is Police FC have a female coach. Yeah.
Wait, why is that? Is that a good or bad thing?
It sounds interesting that we can have a football team which is male dominated having female coach. But now look at the choice of word here. Police FC chase first victory. So that means that there is an aspect of saying that all along that coach has been losing. I mean, just because it's a female, but now they're saying the coach is chasing the first victory.
But is that implied or overt? Like, is it?
From where I feel, from I just feel that there is that subject of making that coach feel, weak. I mean.
So for you, it's a feeling?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I interject?
Yes. And remember, feelings change.
over the same period. But really, you see that we, in this case, it's a story of trying to balance humor, wordplay.
Yes.
And you see, in sport, it's allowed to some degree. And to me, I want to appear defensive.
Okay. I'm speaking from that side of the table. So let's hear. I know somebody will correct you.
Oh, yes, because there's somebody. Well, I'm open to the other opinion.
That's okay.
Because this from this point.
Yes, that's okay.
This lens, this person is trying to achieve some sense of humor, wordplay, and something about production. It's about the decks. The decks here is really the space he has for the titles. So he has this to feel against this story and how to make it interesting somewhat. Can you see something?
I like the aspect of you saying that they want to make the story interesting. That's cool. But when you talk about the aspect of humor, that kind of production. Sometimes
when growing up, we know that the police chase thieves, those doing bad things. So see, they are trying to bring now these aspects. Do you see something?
He's trying to justify it.
I want to hear from you guys if you picked a story that's good enough, or you want to continue on that conversation.
It's a story here.
Yes.
The story is about Dr. Purity Ngina, the CEO of the National Gender Equality Commission.
Mm-hmm.
The title of the story is From Academia to Leadership, Kenya's youngest PhD holder in 2018, now gender equality advocate. What I've picked from this story is I like her story. I like how she was able to break the glass ceilings. But as you continue to read the story, you hear things that we women suffer from all the time. Imposter syndrome, you're in this space, you don't feel like you belong. So I have questions maybe also to the rest of the ladies. Is it a social conditioning for us not to take up space? And is there a way we can change that narrative so that we're able to take up space as women? Because this is something that men do in a heartbeat without overthinking. You see something, you want it, you go for it. As we see something, we want it, we pause, we analyze, we overthink, and we end up not taking up that space that we are supposed to take up. Yeah.
The problem with you guys is overthinking.
Wait, who? Who's them?
She has said the problem with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the ladies, that is overthinking. So I'm actually putting the words in her.
I think I'm happy that at least there's no word woman. Like they didn't say Kenya youngest woman PhD holder, so that's commendable. Yeah. But I think it's how we're socialized. Basically, there's a lot of factors. There's culture, how you've been brought up. There's the whole bad girl versus being a nice girl, mechanism, also part of it. So there's a lot that goes into it. I don't think it's a problem. It's just how we're socialized, and we're just a product of society.
Interesting.
Can we use it to our advantage at ASCA? Is there a way we can flip it and use it to our advantage?
Well, you guys can tell us. Now that he said them, and because now it puts a scenario of them versus us, you know? So that's also a good question, and I think we'll get into that. Fiber?
I don't think necessarily it's a bad thing, but if you look at the flip side, things have really changed over years.
For better or for us?
For better, I think. For better, because we have really good women doing great things. We have LSK Faith, we have our CJ, and
you?
and the ladies in this room, and many more, So I feel like things are changing, cultural norms are being broken, religion, society, and things like that. And it's just a matter of pushing the bar further and just to try and get the other generations who are behind us to embrace this new front. And to some extent, it also gives us an opportunity, like our aunties and our mothers. They grew up knowing that a woman is like, cannot be seen, should not be felt. But the way things are changing, as much as we are trying to educate the other women behind us, even our aunties and their mothers should be told also, things have changed. Also, don't dim your light. Things are different, and we can do this. It has been done. We are doing it, and things are evolving.
Have you felt that positivity while looking at the papers? Because at this point in time, we're looking at print media.
Yeah.
Have you felt it for this week? Have you felt like at least there's a good light on how women are being portrayed on print media?
I think so. I think there's been progress. There's been good progress. Even the way how they are quoted in their stories, they are being given opportunity to actually say their own truth, and not the perception of what the truth looks like.
Actually, in 2024, Rongo University did a study on gender and advertising in Kenyan print newspaper. A study of one of these papers they picked. I won't mention, but I can see somebody in this room looking funny. And they said a study found that while gender representation in advertisements is nearly balanced, it slightly favors males. Women are often depicted in traditional roles, primarily associated with household products, while men are shown as authoritative figures in various sectors, including technology, finance, and politics. So I would like to ask all of you to actually go to the headline
of
the paper that you have. Yes, before you go first, let's first go to the headline and tell me, is that represented by man or a woman?
A man from my end.
Okay.
Women from my end and two gentlemen.
Okay. You have the same paper.
Of course.
For you, Fiber?
Men.
Same. Men.
Men.
It's fine. It's funny.
But it's a woman. It's
funny you're looking at the same paper with Dan, but it's still women first. So actually, let's get into that. Let's get into that conversation.
Yeah.
And Dan, you had something to say.
So now, one thing that we need to appreciate is the fact that media is a reflection of the society. We are like the keyhole. So like we reflect what is beamed onto us. So like everything that is there is how the society is. Remember, we are messengers. So it could be we are covering like women that way because that's how they are in the real society.
You've brought a matter of patriarchy and matriarchy in Kenya, which is another dungeon, for lack of a better word, or hole otherwise. But anybody else with another comment? Oh, you still...
Now, onto the front page. No. You see, it's difficult to say because there's a president and dancers. So you see, there's the issue.
Specifically.
Sorry. I'm sorry, ma'am. I forgot.
So it's actually answering to the stereotype. Somebody else?
So for me, there are men, but the only woman, the title is woman married to two men, fights their widows over shillings 100 million estates. As in, it's giving like...
Is that negative or positive?
I feel it's a very negative title.
Okay.
Even her photo, they'd have used a better photo because it's just reinforcing the whole aggressive. And
so just on the same headline, is there a positive comment or on a male?
Okay, there's this one about, is it even positive?
Or are all of them negative?
Okay, there's EACC report no, that's still bad. Gachagua security withdrawn, maybe that.
That's a bad.
I can help from another.
Okay, then quickly.
Whenever it doesn't bleed, it will never, or it hardly makes the front pages, except if it doesn't bleed. It doesn't bleed. It is
So blood.
like,
No.
Like,
It's a need to blame.
no, let me explain. When there's an accident and nobody dies, it may never make to the front pages. So you see now there's no blood, like literal blood in that sense.
So is that common globally?
Take a paper and, like randomly,
Yes.
and look at the front pages. How many times do you see positive stories on the front pages?
Interesting.
So
It's a global threat because actually news
the tendency of news.
Yes.
And something about news is the novelty in it, and just how timely. And you see, you can never plan news. So how gross it is determines the coverage, the prominence, the placement. Yes.
Actually, it's funny. One of the tenets of journalism or news basically is that if a dog bites a man, it's not a big deal. But if the
man bites the dog, now
that's news. Well, it could also be a woman. So just so that we get this.
The thing of having that graphic description of the story,
Yes,
to some extent, has really affected how gender stories or femicide story in this case have been carried forth.
How? Just quickly.
Like for example, the recent Quarry
massacre.
Mm-hmm. It was like I had was like 40 bodies are there about, mutilated, ripped. Like I feel like the more grossier it is like what gives us it's like the more grossier it is, it's a gender story.
Okay.
Or a story that is trying to speak to what the story is, the issue was. Why not have more of like, I don't know, like another direction to the story? It could be how policies are failing to protect the women, or how the country is failing to have policies and laws that safeguard the girl child, something like that.
Actually, that's good you've mentioned that because it's leading us to our next point even as we wrap this up, or rather hopefully wrap this up in a few minutes. There was also another research by the University of Nairobi done in 2022, which says, and the title was Portrayal of Women in Business in Print Media. A case of, I won't mention the papers, in Kenya, right? And it says that when it comes to news coverage, research indicates that women are frequently portrayed negatively in business contexts, often linked to criminal activities or as victims, whereas men receive more favorable coverage and prominence in news articles. Go. Not a net pass. I should have
just
specified that.
Relax.
Yes, it's the dress that I saw fire. Yes. Who wants to go on that?
I want to take a bucket on this.
Okay. And John, James,
Even is scared.
Fiber. I mean, is it true? First and foremost, the question is it true or false?
It's true.
Okay. And why is that?
Sometimes you never just plan, but this thing just happens. You wake up and a woman has thrown the house help down four floors down.
Yes, an unfortunate story.
Yes. So did you plan it? No. But do you have to cover it? Yes.
And just to clarify, it's not the woman who pushed her to go to four floors. She actually jumped herself to save herself from the situation. Yeah. So just to clarify that.
In fact, I'm so grateful that it's woman. At least there's no man.
Is that why? But now that you've said that, Anne, is the question, because even as we talk about gender reporting and communication, is it because that story has not gone for long?
Yes, it's a developing story.
Yes.
And when you see, we report what we find on the ground. So it will keep developing as we go, and maybe we will at some point get so much that we can now give context of whatever happened, what led to what, until she had to yes.
So it's also, as readers, we also need to be aware of developing stories.
Yes. So
actually, both practitioners on this side The readers and the ones writing.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
You see, we should be aware of all these things. But I see, we always aim to inform. Sometimes we entertain, but mostly is to inform. Yes, and that informs almost every other thing. Like the three things: inform, educate, and the third one I think I seem to forget: entertain. Yes.
Stuff you said.
So
There, I have a story that I know. There's a story in Nakuru where a student went to meet somebody. Who remember this story?
In Eldoret?
In Nakuru.
Oh, so still in Nakuru.
And people had challenges. Actually, they were complaining on how it was covered. That's because we told the details. Like my colleague told of the details. So this was a foreign man they never met before. There was money and the intrigues in between that led to the painful end. And people really complained.
Painful end for the lady or for the man?
For the lady.
Oh, okay.
You see, people were complaining on how, like, why would we say that this was a college girl? Like, more of portraying her at a point of vulnerability as a victim, and that she would have done this or that or any other thing, and so many things in between. But you see, now that story came to the newsroom for a review, and we were arguing right, left, center. And one thing we were being asked by the editor: were we to inform or were we just to entertain? So because see, this you're trying to tell a college girl that maybe it could have been you, but also it could not have been you. But this happened because she overlooked this aspect. So that is by informing that you'll now learn, like we are educating you.
So because the three tenets are inform, educate, and entertain.
The three major is.
Good. So somebody else? Please.
And I think he's talking very well that there's need the aspect of informing and educating.
Yes.
But sometimes there is no a follow-up of the story. Either it's print or even otherwise, yeah? And therefore, sometimes as citizens, we are left hanging.
Yeah, I know.
Not him, somebody else.
Yeah, that's a very important point you raise.
Yes.
As media is supposed to follow up and they keep updated the audience to know what's happening after the story. So what you said is it happens sometimes that some media or some journalists may not be follow up on those cases or those stories. Yeah, it's they should improve on that.
Okay, good. Yes.
But I feel there's no follow-up because there was no interest in the first place. As a journalist, you're sent to the field to take a story. So you come back with at the end of the day, you have a target.
Yes.
Back to the newsroom with a story.
Yes.
So you have gone to the field, you have picked your story, you have reported. Tomorrow you move on to the next one. So there's no story. There's no, follow-up. And also the fact of interest. Because I feel sometimes those who actually follow up on their story are those who have they have crafted a niche for themselves and they're interested to actually go back and pick up from what the story was.
Okay, so we have...
Perhaps I can explain that.
Just...
in 1 minute.
No, we have 3 minutes.
Okay, now in 30 seconds. So now you see, we have various bits. So we have general news reporting, where we do the breaking news. Then there are special bits, like the special reports, the political desk. Now, after breaking the news, now we give it on, we pass the baton next to the next bit. Now that's where they take it on. But then comes the issues of financing.
Interesting. Now you know. So there's a master's thesis done by a lady at Digital Commons at Andrew University, which her master's thesis was based on portrayal of women in Kenya's print media, a study of several newspapers in Kenya between June 2002 to June 2003. And it says women are typically represented in domestic roles. Yes, I can hear you breathing, which diminishes their visibility in national development narratives. This perpetuates a stereotype that confines women to traditional roles and undermines their contributions to society. Discuss.
That is true, because those stories are quite prevalent. And I don't think when it's once in a while, like this one, Kenya's youngest PhD holder, those ones are few and far between. And they're not splashed in the headlines. And that's why I'd like to challenge my colleague and say the media